effect that this discourse would be on Sierra-Leoneans, especially those that are not opportune to be in this room. And if we ask ourselves those honest questions, maybe we'll arrive also with a very similar hypothetical question, which bears to us the fundamental of why it's always democracy is on the demand side but not on the supply side. Because most times citizens always demand democracy. But we as citizens, are we actually supplying what is democratic tendency from our civic responsibilities? Those are the critical things. So we are here today to browse through and to have an equation between the perspective of citizens, especially rights holders and duty bearers, in the discourse of fundamental principles of human rights. Because democracy is intertwined with human rights. The absence of democratic space leads to an increase in the violation of fundamental rights. So if we are to discuss democracy, then we are to know and not the tenet in which human rights is ruled upon. So on this note, I want to thank all of you for coming and to thank international ideas and the various democratic actors for convening this sensible, meaningful, and well forward-looking platform that will drive and serves a better way, even for the recommendations of the tripartite that will be out. So I hope we will deliberate much more into this and tomorrow's conversation, and will come with a tangible recommendation that will not be only tabled as a stone, but have a will to move for itself. Because most times we have recommendations, but they cannot be followed. And I hope and pray that in this discourse, all recommendations will be followed and actions needed by the various responsible stakeholders will be implemented. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fodi, for reminding us that as citizens, we should not just be demanding. We also have our responsibilities to ensuring that what the experts have described as flourishing democracy can thrive to an advanced state, and all citizens have a bigger role to play in ensuring that happens, especially with this fragility we are experiencing as a nation. So it takes all of us, not just those we've elected, but also those of us who elect those that have been elected, to ensure that we have a thriving democracy. And so we now have to ensure that the reason why we're here, let's have a clear picture. That picture needs to be painted clearly for us to actually understand why we're here and what we are expected to go back with. And what should we do as stakeholders in the field of democracy? There are fundamental tenets of the concept of democracy that we must understand. And until we do so, this would only be another dialogue, series as it has always been. So we are now inviting statements, but let's just have a clear picture. And on that note, let's make welcome the chairperson for the National Council for Civic Education and Democracy, Mr. Kalilu Tutani. He needs to give us an overview.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm very happy to see all of you. Can you see me from the back, the journalist corner? Hello, on this side, can you see me? I see a lot of people play with their phone, and I don't like it when people play with their phones when I talk, because I want them to pay attention. This is a dialogue session. It's important, although Mr. Dr. Farrelly stole my ideas, I'm left with not much to say, but I'm going to try as much as possible to bring to you the importance, significance of what we're doing here today. Since the end of the election in 2023, there has been a lot of things that have been said about our country, the state of our democracy. We have not had an opportunity as a people to lay into it, to have our own views heard from them. So what we are doing here today is to have a look as citizens of this country. What is the state of our democracy? Because what we did in the Strengthening Democracy project was to work with NCD, with PPLC, with other civil society groups for us to drive participation, non-violent participation, especially of young people. In our own case, we wanted young people not to be violent, to come out in their numbers and participate in the electoral process. And they did. On the day of the election, we were told over 80% of our compatriots went out there and voted. And the level of violence was minimal. So, as far as we are concerned, we succeeded in what we set out to do. Unfortunately, the politicians disagreed. A lot of issues say this one happened, we have disaggregated this, disaggregated that, and all of that. We thought they were trying to throw spanners into our work. My sister and I were very happy because we thought we had succeeded. But the outcome and all the arguments that they had was not very good for us. But we thought there was an opportunity in that as well. Because if you are going to review elections systems, then that's a good thing. Once in a while, we need to look at what we're doing right and what is not going so right. But you have to put people in charge of that process. Instead, what happened? The two political parties whose only interest in all of this is to win elections, were given the responsibility to go and review this process and set new laws. We think that's not quite right. We think the people of Sierra Leone should be the ones who should be in charge of that process. They're the ones who should discuss these issues and come up with recommendations that we can all agree on. And so that's why we are, together with my colleagues at the NCD and with support with, from International Ideas and the EU, that's why we decided that we should have this dialogue. What is it that we actually think? Because just in the last 2 weeks or so, we saw what happened in South Africa. The dominance of the ANC was broken. They have now a coalition. So with the other party, the main opposition party, is now discussing with ANC as to how they can make the government. Consider in our country, APC and SNPP having dialogue to form a government. Wouldn't that be a good thing? It will be. Why is that not possible? The reason why it's not possible is because we have given them a lot of sway as citizens. Look at what happens here. In South Africa, they have what they call a whole nation proportional representation. So they don't have district demarcations. They don't have Bujon district, which is predominantly many SNPP supporters. They don't have Bombali district, which is predominantly Oliver APC supporters. And what happened in our case, I don't know how we got to 12% of the votes in the district for people to get parliamentary seats. I just checked. There were 303.34 million people that voted. The people who are now in parliament are only represented by 2.7 million. So what happened to the 700,000 other voters? Why are they not represented? Don't they have a voice? The reason why they don't have a voice is because we have set a standard that is untenable. We have set a standard deliberately taking away 700,000 of our own compatriots. We are not getting them represented in parliament. Is that right? It's not, in my view. And I'm sure in the views of several other Sierra it's not right. So what we want to do, why don't we explore some other ways? Suppose we say we're going to have a constitution, a whole nation constituency. And if we say we have 132 seats in that parliament, it means when a party gets 1.32% of the votes cast in this country, they get a seat. When we do that, we are going to ensure that we are going to break the dominance of parties that have lived all over. We are the only country that have maintained a same party, political party in West Africa since independence. Check your history. We are the only party. We are the only country that have done that. To what benefit? You ask yourself. So what we want to do, we want to have a dialogue, we want to have a conversation that allow us to have more people represented in parliament. That makes sure that when we next week elect a president, that president is not going to be holding only to their own political parties or to their tribes that voted them. They are going to have a responsibility to serve the whole country. How do you know that? We do that by ensuring that the way we elect the president is going to be such that he is going to need everybody. The president must need all Sierra Leoneans for this country to move. We are not being serious about that discussion. That's why we are where we are. What we want to do is to deepen that conversation. What we are doing here in the next 2 days is to ask ourselves, why are we the way we are? What can we do with our electoral system to better our lives? The business of government is to better the lives of people. The business of government is to secure and protect their people. We are not doing well in that department. What we want to do together with our colleagues at the NCD is to create a platform for you to have this discussion. Honestly, frankly, that's what we call it a citizen dialogue session. We want you to look at all of the possibilities. In South Africa, my proposal was selected by the assembly. But that assembly was voted by the people. And those people, they said, no, we are not going to give you all of the powers. You have had power since independence. We are not getting the benefit, the dividends of democracy. We are not enjoying the dividends of democracy. And now they say we want to enjoy the dividends of democracy. Therefore, we are going to force you to work with the GA. And now they're even negotiating who gets what, so that they can better the lives of our people. That's what we should do. And that's why we are here. And I want to thank you for coming. I don't say don't play with your phones, but it distracts from the core of the conversation that we're having. Let us have this conversation honestly. Thank you very much.
So sometimes when you listen to people having understood the concept of governance in Sierra Leone, you feel like there's hope. So I was asking myself when you were speaking, is that he's speaking from the council, government established entity? It brings hope. It tells you that we're moving as a nation. We are moving. So thank you very much. We are moving. And he expressed outrightly that if we're talking about reforming way forward with our electoral system, we cannot fault the process. We have to outlaw the process. You cannot just have the two political entities who've been accused for the longest of time to be responsible for where we are as a nation. It feels like somebody was telling me that could be a deal-making process. And now, what is happening? So now we need citizens to be involved in the process. He mentioned, when the issue of the proportional representation came up, one of the reasons advanced at the time was we have to ensure that dissenting views, smaller political parties, are represented. They must not be left out. But this thing goes back to the two bigger dogs, Parliament. So we have to get all of these things, and that is why we're here today. And the players are all here to ensure that we're able to correct some of the wrongs that we've done over time. Let's now make welcome the chairperson for the All Political Parties Association. Do we have the chairperson for the All Political Parties Association here, please? APA.
Anybody from Upper?
Okay. We're moving on. Thank you. So, ABBA does not have a representative here right now, so we have to move on. So let's make welcome for the chairman for the National Council of Paramount Chiefs, please.
Good morning, invited guests. I will ask the organizers of this meeting to allow me to speak both Creole and English. When I was invited to come and give a statement here today, I wanted to prepare a script. I realized later I'll be talking to politicians. God has helped me. I was one time a member of parliament. When there are contentious issues in parliament, who dare you to stand up and talk in support of the government? They will say, talk like chief. So please accept me to talk like the chief here this morning. Having said that, in the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone, Section 72 talks about the office of the paramount chief. I'm bringing this to your attention because society has carved some expectations expected of us that is putting the institution of chieftaincy in the harm's way anytime there is an election in this country. And in this section 72, the subsection 4, all paramount chiefs are afraid of it. That subsection 72.4 says that the paramount chief can be removed for gross misconduct. I want my listeners to know that gross misconduct was never defined in the 1991 Constitution. So it is only any serving president that actually knows the definition of gross misconduct. Having said that, in the same 1991 Constitution, Section 74.1a creates room for paramount chief representation in Parliament, one per district. That is also in the National Constitution. Going further, the latest act I know of is the 2009 Chieftaincy Act. In that same 2009 Chieftaincy Act, our functions are spelled out in Section 29 of that act. Having said that, I've been fortunate to go through 4 elections now as a paramount chief. 2007, 2012, 2018, and 2023. I've been also fortunate to be the National Chairman Council of Chiefs for the 2018 election and for the 2023 elections. There are certain criticism we face. Sometimes I wonder why we should even be paramount chiefs. These politicians, we are the only crop of people in Sierra Leone whose family size we increase with every electoral cycle. If we come to you, we want you to accept us as member of your family, irrespective of party. You will all come. You accept, you'll be in some trouble. You don't accept, you'll be in trouble. Some of us have survived before that. And I'm happy my brother is here, the Chief Electoral Commission. Outside western area of Sierra Leone, you go to the south, you go to the east, you go to the north. We are there. There are certain things that cannot take place in Sierra Leone without our involvement, without our participation. But I've come to the conclusion, I hear you're talking about citizens' participation. I want you to know not everybody is very happy with the participation of paramount chiefs in parties and politics. Yeah. So they've added one new word, I'm seeing it now, active. Maybe you guys can participate actively, but not us. I don't know why. Because we are also citizens. We contest elections, we are being voted for, and don't forget we also have our civic responsibilities to vote for others when the time comes. Legally, not illegally. Now, I don't want to bore you. My colleague Marian is there, the commissioner or head of the commission, National Commission, and I'm seeing Dr. Charles Silva here. We've taken lectures since 2007 in Kenya, 2012 in Bo, 2018 in the Bank Complex, Quito, 2023, Dr. Silva, my colleague Mary and there from National Commission for Democracy, took us to Kenya and later to Kudloko, and rely on natural. They are lecturing us as to what to be our roles before elections, during elections, and after elections. But when there is elections, there is always a winner and a loser. Why that winner is happy with paramount chiefs, the opposition is not happy about our roles. Before I take my seat, I want all of you that are listening to me here this morning that there is no law I am aware of. My name is Paramount Chief Asoluku. I come from Sando Chiefdom, Kono District. I'm currently the head of the National Council of Chiefs. I am not aware of any law up to today, Monday the 21st, is it? That prohibits paramount chiefs from involving in politics. That law does not exist up to today, to the best of my knowledge. So please help us in order to protect Mama Sierra Leone. We are being considered to be moral guarantors by default, but these politicians are not sure they are prepared to legislate any law in this country to keep paramount chiefs outside politics. Because every ruling government is expecting me to attend their rallies. If I attend opposition rally, I'll be in trouble. They know, I know a lot of people here. I've been around chieftaincy for 20 years now. I look young, but I've been a paramount chief for 20 years now. So please, I'm not here to dictate to you. The blame game will continue, our paramount chiefs will only be the fall guys. Without you knowing that there is no law in this country which prohibits the participation of paramount chiefs in the politics. And don't forget, one former resident minister was telling me one day in Kenya, he said the chieftaincy belongs to you, but the staff belongs to us. So give that record. I rest my case. Thank you very much.
So I think it deserves another round of applause. So we're getting it. This is what Monday Dr. Week is saying and talk. And we're getting the things out. And this is what democracy is all about. The fact that, he clearly mentioned some of the barriers they face as traditional leaders. The fact that, there is always this caveat of no clear definition of what God's misconduct is for them to be removed, and that only has to be defined by the Supreme Executive based on the 1991 Constitution. It's worrisome. And so until we get all of that, and that is why we've been hearing calls for a new constitution. Though we have some people saying we have to approach it in a piecemeal manner, others are saying it has to be holistic, so we get things really, really right in Sierra Leone. But thank you very much. And the fact that you are aware that there is no law debarring you from participating, but there are individuals debarring you from participating actively in politics. Until otherwise, you have to be safe. We now have to call on the co-chairs. Are they here? The co-chairs for the tripartite committee. I'm not seeing any of them. I'm not seeing any of them here. We have the Executive Secretary for the Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion. Our representative here, please. Okay. Let's put our together for him, please.
Paramount Chief Pasoko also doubles as appointment of our Peace Commission, so he's a sole custodian for promoting peace and national cohesion in Sierra Leone. I greet you, sir. Honorable guests, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and privilege to stand before you today at this national dialogue session organized by the National Council for Civic Education and Democracy, NACSED, and the National Commission for Democracy. I extend my sincere gratitude to the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, IDEAS, and the European Union for their unwavering collaborative support in making this crucial gathering made possible. The theme for this session, Consolidating Democracy by Promoting Inclusive Participation, is both timely and imperative. As we gather here at the Atlantic Hotel, let us recognize the significance of our discussion over these 2 days in shaping the future of our nation. The election of the government of President Julius Maada Bio in 2018 marked a pivotal moment for Sierra Leone. It was a movement that called a renewed efforts in fostering peace, unity, and democratic governance. In response to the President's request for a green paper on establishing an independent commission for peace and national cohesion, extensive consultation and dialogue were conducted with key stakeholders, including political parties, inter-religious councils of Sierra Leone, the media, and international communities. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this consultation culminated in the recommendations outlined in the Bintu-Malekwi Dialogue Green Paper and subsequently in the ICPNC Act of 2020. The Commission's mandate encompasses 3 broad areas: conflict prevention, conflict resolution, and public education. Additionally, it starts with adopting recommendations from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the Constitutional Review Report, among others. The establishment of this commission is not just a national initiative, but also a reflection of a broader regional and continental mandate to institutionalize early warning and response mechanism within Sierra Leone. Since its inception, the Commission has received invaluable technical assistance from the African Union Peace and Security Department, ASAO, in establishing its Situation Room, which significantly enhances our early warning and response capabilities. One of the Commission's notable achievements in mediating the dialogue that led to the National Unity Agreement. This agreement successfully resolved a political deadlock and paved the way for opposition APC politicians to occupy their elected offices. The Commission further facilitated the African Union, UNOWAS, and ECOWAS for a follow-up visit to Sierra Leone to assess the progress of the tripartite and National Unity Agreements as a whole. This is a testament to our all-collaborative commitment to peace and national cohesion. As we continue to work towards strengthening democracy in Sierra Leone, it is crucial to emphasize the importance of inclusive participation. Democracy thrives where every voice is heard and every citizen feels represented. Our discussion over these 2 days will focus on how we can achieve this inclusivity, ensuring that no one is left behind in the democratic process. Honorable guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I urge all participants to engage actively and constructively in this session. Your insights, experience, and recommendations are vital in our quest to consolidate democracy and promote inclusive participation in Sierra Leone. I am Moses Magam, Deputy Executive Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moses, for that statement. Let me just quickly recognize the presence of Mrs. Frances Numa, who is the Executive Director for Early Warning Commission, and Chief Matthew Young, Secretary General, Council of Tribal Heads, and also those who will be on the panel here this afternoon. I see Andrew Lavadi from IGR. He would be speaking on consolidating democracy by promoting inclusive participation. Abdul Fatola from Chadi, and Dr. Charles Silva is here. I don't know, I've not seen Dr. Sadi's birthday mate here. She's Marcella. I see Marcella is also celebrating the birthday, but she should be on the panel. And okay, she's on our way. And Rashid Bubuya from Ligali, who is also not here. You know, at some point I was in the US covering the midterms, and I had the opportunity to talk to Sean Steele. Sean Steele was the party chairman for Republican California State. And I also had a chat with Senator Leone. Now, something clearly stood out, that politics, no matter the territory, there are common practices. There was this pressure on Daisy Logan. Daisy Logan is the Mohamed Konneh of Los Angeles County. And at the time, we were stationed in his office. And, you know, because of it's the US, votes were being tallied, and all the equipment and the forms were being brought in real time by helicopter. I know we're dreaming. It's always good to dream. We'll get there someday. But then, Daisy Logan, at the time, they needed police personnel to actually take him out of his office for some time. That's what comes with elections. Today, Mohamed Konneh, I'm not sure anybody here is envy of his position in Sierra Leone. But since his appointment, but it is there. And even on a private note, when we talk, you know there are things that we all must do as a nation if we actually even want our institutions to perform. There must be our support as citizens to ensure that things happen the right way. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Mohamed Konneh is here to give us the keynote address for this dialogue session.
Thank you, Samuel. I will start my remark by referencing somebody, a very strong civil society advocate in West Africa, on elections. We met in Liberia. And one of the issues I raised with him was that why the civil society organizations, or the citizens, as they normally refer to their audience, why is it that whenever politicians or other group or supporters attack election officials, we hardly hear condemnation from civil society organizations as they do with political parties when they accuse the Electoral Commission of being unfair? You know what he said? He said electoral commissioners are orphans before elections. But in Sierra Leone, we are still orphans after the elections. So I'm here very much delighted. Today is the anniversary of the 2023 elections, 24 June. From here, we're going to have press conference to address some of the issues. I know many of you have been saying, why is the ECSL not talking? we are very calculated, because whatever we say, we have different people view or interpret or have their perception relating to what we say. So we talk when we want to talk, and when we talk, we give reasons with facts. Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, please allow me to stand on the existing protocol. And good morning to you all. I bring you greetings from the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone, and I'm very honored and delighted for this opportunity to give you this keynote statement and this auspicious National Dialogue Forum on the theme consolidating democracy by promoting inclusive participation. I want to thank the organizers for bringing together stakeholders to discuss this relevant and topical subjects of inclusiveness in our democracy. Every electoral cycle or every decade we always have a global cliche relating to global issues. So for this decade, I'm sure everything is about inclusivity, whether in Africa, in Europe, in other words, the minorities also want to hear their voice or their voices. Mr. Chairman, please allow me to bring my keynote address to statements made by a renowned scholar, Professor James Robinson, who said that elections are a centerpiece of democracy. They are the fundamental political event in democratic society and the only occasion on which most people get directly involved in politics. In other words, that is the essence of democracy, government by the people, for the people, and of the people. I don't know whether Prof is here, whether that definition still stands in the context of Sierra Leone. Maybe when you are on your panel, you will educate us on that. This statement rather underscores the point that elections must be inclusive, where all those eligible to have the opportunity to vote choose their representatives, and where the process must ensure that women, men, persons with disability participate without hindrance. We can all confirm that the modern trend and modern dynamics are gearing towards inclusion in all spheres and space to curb the menace of discrimination that hinders participation in all aspects of democracy and governance. Inclusion in electoral participation is not limited to having the right to vote, but the electoral processes should encompass all eligible citizens that are empowered and able to vote, regardless of their background or circumstances. Generally, there are general basic principles for promoting inclusion. One is eliminating legal barrier, enhancing accessibility, empowering voter education and awareness, ensuring fair representation, reducing socioeconomic barrier and infrastructure, combating voter suppression, leveraging technology, fostering community, and enhancing electoral infrastructure. These are the basic common principles. So if we are talking about inclusion, let's use this as a guideline for you to judge whether the ECSL in the electoral cycle for 2020-2024 at least met 70% or 80 or 90% or 100% of these general principles or guidelines. Therefore, when you look at our electoral cycle strategic plan for 2020-2024, with the theme strengthening electoral processes for maximum performance, set the stage for more inclusive electoral processes. Pillar 8 of the strategic plan solely dedicated to inclusion, participation, and equity. In other words, from the onset after 2018, based on the recommendations from the 2018 elections, there was a need for the ECSL to consider as a priority the electoral processes that we encourage or provide opportunity for everybody to participate. Now let's look at some of the things we did in view of the strategic plan. First, we did establish electoral inclusion departments. Before I joined the commission as a chair, we had a gender unit embedded in the HR department. So as part of our restructuring, we established the electoral inclusion department. And these departments are basically responsible to coordinate activities that relate to gender, disability, and promote and advocate and enhance participation of vulnerable persons in the elections in compliance with the gender and disability protocols and conventions. This is a group that champions the organization of stakeholders, of technical working group, of recruitment of disabled. And when you look at most of our advertisement for recruitment, we always encourage female or disabled to participate or send in the application. The second issue we handled was to develop policies. You cannot only establish department for electoral process inclusion, but also develop the necessary policy that will guide the operations of the department. And therefore, to ensure commitment of all the electoral process, the Commission developed a gender and disability policy to guarantee the equitable participation of vulnerable voters in elections. We also developed, coordinated, and implemented gender and disability activities in accordance with the gender and disability policies of the Commission and the country. We also ensure preferential treatment are accorded to women and persons with disability. As a result of this policy, we were able to create make provisions for the disabled, the aged, to be given priority when they went to cast their votes. We created ramps at difficult areas where polling centers were. We also moved from most of our stations from court barracks to schools, which we consider as reasonable environments that will accommodate our disabled and aged when they appear to the polling centers. So that's why for the 2023 elections, most of our centers were placed at school compounds across the country, unless where schools were not available. The other important step we undertook was a review of the Public Elections Act. I think we have been mentioned here in the 2018 electoral observation recommendations. There were several recommendations that require the changes on the 2012 Public Elections Act. And therefore, under Section 58 of the Public Elections Act, made provision for increased participation and representation of women. The law provides that for any 3 candidates nominated by any political party, one must be female. Sometimes, I think it has become the reality of the world. We only concentrate on bad news, but the good news are placed in the dust. Everybody can recall that the UA Act, which is now being recognized as the means for the increase in the governance by gender, by female participation, is the only instrument. But we have to recall the UA Act, or B, was in Parliament almost a year before we took our Public Elections Act to Parliament. And when we took the public elections bill to Parliament, because of the information we had regarding the concept, the perception about the UA Act, so we went with two-pronged approach to ensure that we get what we wanted. We had realized MPs were against the affirmative provision in UA Act, which says 30%, at least 30% has to be in the UA Act. So what we did, okay, we said, let's take the 30% of affirmative provision, but they have alternative which says every 3 candidates nominated by political party, one has to be a female. So we took that to Parliament, and Parliament was against the affirmative on the ground that it goes against the Constitution, because there is no provision in the Constitution that gives qualification of members of Parliament to be female. Rather, the general provisions are there. But then, when we proposed it every 3 to 1 or every 2 to 1, they did see that as very risky in terms of the oppositions, because whatever we say, people, the first personal defense or self-defense is the first law of nature. They were in Parliament, and at the time they only have about 16% of female in Parliament. And they were all thinking, if we are going to have this affirmative provision, am I going to lose my seat because of this? In order or somebody has to give up for us to meet this requirement. So it was the Public Elections Act that gave the foundation for the giveaway to be passed in Parliament. That's why there is no specific provision when it comes to representation. Rather, they all reference the Public Elections Act of 58, which say every three candidates one has to be a female. But the problem we encounter, that is the reality or dishonesty of the politicians. We came to the nomination period. We now have this law that requires political parties to nominate every 3 candidates, one has to be a female candidate. In the first instance, our request was every female candidate should not be placed below 2. In other words, 1 or 2. Because we are looking at 3%. So, but then they kicked against that. So we came to the nomination period. We designed a system. As somebody was saying, we also introduced some level of technology in the entire electoral process. And we had created a column for identification numbers for either female or male. We said the female is number 2 and male is number 1. So every 3 candidates, if you say Abdul, Fatoma, Mohamed Konneh, Dr. Silva, you give 1 to the male candidate and 2 representing the female candidate. So what they were doing, in some instances, they will put Mohamed Konneh, and then they will put Hawa Kuruma and put as number 1. Instead of, they will put the female candidate, give you the reference of the female candidate. So when we receive all the data, we realized that some of them did not meet, most of the major political parties did not meet these requirements. In other words, they were placing the number for a male as a female. So we called them, because we have the votes, we have their photos, we have their voter registration. That's why when we are doing the voter registration, we ensure that we use your national ID card, we ensure that you have your photos. So we realized that we were cheating on the process. So we called them, we are not going to accept this. And they went back to change so that we have the correct details. So that's why today we have in Parliament about 33 or so %. You go to the local governments, you have them, we have the data here. So in other words, the issue of inclusion is not only limited to the enforcers of the law, but also the participants in the process. If they are honest, we will achieve it. If they are not honest, we will never achieve, because we will always try to bypass the process. The strategy for maximizing participation of marginalized groups. What we did, as I said, we formed stakeholders coordinating groups. This was meant to effectively implement a program for increased participation, address critical agenda and disability issues in preparation for the 2023 presidential, parliamentary, and local council elections, complement the effort of Commission in educating and sensitizing members of the public or communities, providing opportunities to monitor the compliance of ECSL commitment to gender. If we are not monitored the nomination record, we're never going to have achieved. Otherwise, we were going to have Mr. Konneh address as our Kuruma in Parliament. The other important thing we embark on is the voter education. Today we talk about the issue of the participation, the issue of white vote. We did extensive voter education. We received funding from the ECOWAS. We recruited about 30 civil society organizations, including the media, to help us do voter education, because we realized that we are going to do the PR system, and PR system, many of the voters were people below the ages when to vote when we did PR system in 2002. So therefore we recruited civil society organizations to help us do the voter registration. That's the reason why today, if we talk about the white vote percentage below 5%, below 0.5, because of the continued trend in reducing the continual voter education and the trend in reducing the white votes. From 2018, the final result we have about 1.2 white vote. So for 2023, we were able to reduce the white vote to 35 or 0.36%. In other words, continuous voter education with the participation of not only the Electoral Commission or the civil society, but even the political parties. Let the political parties take up the voter education as their primary goal to get people to come out and vote for them. It's not about focusing on the ECSL or the electoral management body that will give you the votes, that will provide or reduce the void votes. If we meet at the political party liaison committee meeting, we provide you information, we provide you the details. It's your responsibility to tap that information, tap into it, and train your voters, your supporters, so that they will come out and vote. So we had extensive voter education that helped us as reflected in the turnout as well as the void vote. Access to electoral information is another crucial point. One of my statements when I assumed office was to ensure, one, on the election day, people will go to vote. My kid will be in school while the voting is going on. And that my office was going to be open to everybody, politicians, civil society organizations, the media, and everybody. That's why when you go to my office, you don't sit in the waiting room for less than 5 minutes. You will come and see me. So let nobody say the Electoral Commission operated like a secret society. My office, the Electoral Commission, has always been open, and is always open to people to discuss issues of relevance to the Commission's work. We also had extensive consultations. That's why we have the public political party liaison committee meetings. When the Commission meets, we develop policy, or we agree on policy. We bring that to our management. They develop the regulations, and these regulations are presented. Political parties are here. Dr. Sandy is here. I think others are also there. They can confirm that at every PPSC meeting, we present every action or every decision the Commission has taken relating to electoral process, from voter registration to the tallying processes. So, in other words, when we do these presentations to political parties, we expect them to take information to their party offices, to their supporters, to educate them that this is the policy is going to govern this particular aspect of the electoral process. That is, for example, if we are doing a voter registration, we develop our regulations because that's the provision we have in the Constitution for us to provide, to develop regulations that will guide our conduct or operations. Or rather, there we go, we explain, we present, they understand, but then when they come out, they have different stories they will tell their supporters. So the issue of perception is being created mostly by the political parties, the way they want to change the law for their benefits. In other words, we are about 200 staff. If you have an institution, a political party that has over 1,000 or 100,000 of supporters, any of them, what they say, the leadership, they will take the information as a fact compared to what the Electoral Commission will say, because they will always find a way to interpret what they perceive is against them wrongly to their supporters. They say charity begins at home. Whenever we are doing our recruitment, we always ensure that we have a quota system. We always ensure that we give priority to the disabled, the gender equation. That's why even the hard work staff we recruited, we have something like about 30% of women and 25% of persons with disability. So in other words, 55% of those who recruited came from the disadvantaged or the minority. So we are practicing the inclusive politics, the inclusive electoral system. We also developed the assertive tools to help the voters, the disabled, to be the blind, to be able to vote accurately, instead of having somebody to tell them, go vote for this party or vote for this person. So we developed the technology through the support of the EU, so that when they get to the poll, they have the liberty. They have the liberty to ensure that they were able to vote who they wanted to vote for. Sorry, I'm just reminded that the form was provided by UNDP as part of the electoral process. As I mentioned, we also created a conducive environment by creating ramps for people with disabled ability to go and cast their vote. There were a lot of social events we organized to motivate people. For the first time, we even brought on board the bike riders, the musicians. We had a contract with AYD where they brought in the rappers to organize social event as part of the campaign. Of course, one of the other important things is that assisted us to achieve the peaceful conduct of the election. We had effective collaboration between us and these other state institutions like the security sector. I could imagine the last station that finished election, the last station at 11:30 p.m. on the polling day was at St. Anne's School. All of us were there because we had problems. They had attacked our staff, and therefore we could not start the election on time. Certain stations started at that center. So that area, we call upon all the security personnel, the ONNs, the police, were all there. And the last person cast his vote at 11:35 p.m. We counted the vote in the presence of all political parties. So in other words, this speaks to the issue of opportunity to vote. In some other jurisdictions, they will have cancelled that center or postponed the election to the next year or appropriate date. It has happened everywhere without any kind of violating the law. But we insisted that everybody at that center at that time will be given the opportunity to vote. And we're able to do that, doing that because of the collaboration we had with the security forces. In conclusion, Mr. Chair or MC, ladies and gentlemen, the other important thing I want us to bring, we have spoken about the law, the review of the Public Elections Act, the introduction of the PR system. So I ask this question to a politician. How do you intend to have implemented the 3-to-1 or 2-to-1 without a proportional representation? You know what the person say? Say anyway, some let's say I will talk and more, but it will be very difficult for we if not only the PR system. We had received the directive from the president at the middle of preparing to finalize the voter registration for us to utilize the PR system. But the procedure, what system are we going to utilize to be fair on the basis that the midterm census was ordinarily condemned by the opposition. They did not even participate to some extent. If, as a commission, we have the liberty provided by the Constitution, when we are doing boundary delimitation or determining the number of constituencies, when the Parliament gave us the number of parliamentarians, we use that to determine the population quota per district. And in doing that, what the Constitution says, that we use the population census, the recent population census, or if the commissioners, forget about the ECSL, who provide the space. But if you really want to win election as a political party, take the politics very seriously, devoid of blackmailing or pressuring the institutions that conduct elections. If you have your fan, you have your observers, your agents, ensure that you educate them what to do at the polling station for them to receive the result reconciliation form, to ensure that ECSL staff paste the reconciliation form on the wall. Ensure that you collect all of this. In Liberia, the opposition that won, they were releasing their result even before the National Election Commission released here the following day. They used private helicopters to collect their RF form from hard-to-reach areas. So whether you are in opposition in governance, and somebody said, some of the stations, there were no representatives. And they will say, no, we're not able to send it because they go beat with staff there. It's on both sides. SLPP, APC in the north, there are certain stations where you had no representative of SLPP. The same thing happened in the south. So it's a question of how committed as a political party you want to win the election. Forget about the Electoral Commission. Every election, post-elections, we develop, we review. This has been going on over the years, every electoral cycle. Based on recommendations, we come out with laws. Before 2018, there was no question of inclusion. The Electoral Commissioners, regional commissioners, who the law, the Public Elections Act say they have to certify, was not part of the 2012 Electoral Act. But these were brought on board. Similarly, if we now want to introduce the VAR in electoral systems, VAR disaggregated data, transmitting of results from the polling station to the tally center, or even do the calculation, the tally at the constituency level instead of the district level. These are all policies that we can introduce into the law, so that we now have VAR which never existed in the English league. We Britain. So before then, I mean, when Ferguson was at the helm of Manchester, everybody would say, "Now Ferguson made the referee the rope, right?" So now that the VAR they blame. So maybe it is now time for us to introduce the VAR in the electoral results management system going forward. As far as the Commission is concerned, we are confident. I've said this several times. We are very much satisfied, and we are proud of the management, whether they like it or not. There's a lot of stuff that has never made to political parties. Even the Commission, I have less than about a year to go, and I have no interest of going back. Let me say that. Yeah, so I want people to go to the Commission, go and talk to the staff quietly, and be anybody. Look at the structure of the building. Go to the warehouse, go to Kenema, go to Bo, go to McKinney, look at the offices. If that's how they were before 2018, or even before 2020 when I assumed office. So the Electoral Commission is not only about conducting elections, but rather providing the environment that will assist, that will ensure free, fair, and credible elections are conducted. And that's what we did for the 2023 elections. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman for the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone, Mohamed Konneh. So it's been quite an informative moment. A lot of things have been said. This session that will speak to consolidate democracy by promoting inclusive participation.
Thank you very much, Mr. MC. It's a privilege for me, on behalf of the National Commission for Democracy, to move this vote of thanks. Following a loaded session, first with the call to order, prayers, opening remarks, overview of the session itself, and the various statements from different speakers, and ending with the also loaded address from the ECS chairman as a keynote address. Usually when people don't talk, when you give them the opportunity to talk, they download. And we have witnessed a downloading from the ECSL commissioner himself, the head of ECSL. And it's fitting that I start my thank you from that particular point to say, Mr. Konneh, a big thank you for this wonderful keynote address. It has set the pace for the conversation that we're going to be having here. And I see a galaxy of panelists getting ready to get everything rolling out. And at the end of the day, our communique will inform progress in terms of democratic inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, I noted with every seriousness a statement, in fact it was a question asked by the rep of the European Union. He said, and I attempt to quote, "Are we honest in our discussion? And how beneficial will it be for the people?" That for me is a question that needs a lot of attention throughout this citizens dialogue session. Because if it's about talking, we're going to be talking forever. But how do we inject sincerity and honesty into our conversation so that it has a lasting effect for the people who should benefit from this democratic process. And on that note also, I want to say a big thank you to the European Union. If we are gathered here, we as NCD recognize it because they are providing the funding. And as we say thank you, we ask that you continue to provide the funding so that we can also always have the opportunity to move out there and do the things that we are doing, even as we again are here today and with our sister institution, NASED, have brought you together to ensure we continue with this talk. This conversation will never end. I also want to use this opportunity as I move this vote of thanks to also thank the chairman of the National Council of Paramount Chiefs. He's always a fine talker. Wherever you go, when he speaks, you know a gentleman has actually spoken. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate your contribution to this conversation. And we want to also thank the Deputy Executive Secretary of the Peace Commission, yes. Thank you so much, sir. That was a well-scripted statement, and we benefited a lot from it. We want to use this opportunity to appreciate the fact that we could come together, especially the commission that I work for, and the National Council for Civic Education. Well, of course, they started with development, now it's democracy. The fact that we could come together, I want to appreciate every member of staff of these two institutions. It's not easy at all, managing people, but here we are. It's a testimony to the fact that when we are ready to come together, it is possible for us to work together. Management and staff of these institutions, I want to say a big thank you to you. Let the collaboration continue. Let the partnership continue. It will yield the right dividend for our democracy. And I also want to use this opportunity to say a big thank you, because coming together, even though it's organized by these two institutions, we have the full support of International IDEA. So we want to also say a big thank you to the management and staff of International IDEA in Sierra Leone and beyond. To you, who later on are going to be leading the conversation in terms of the panel discussion, we also want to say a big thank you in advance. We know that what you're going to say to us will be food for thought, and we wait eagerly for such good pieces of information, because we want to see what we can do to change the narrative in the positive direction for our country's democracy. So you, our guests, if you had not come, it would have been an endeavor in futility. But because you came, the room is loaded, colorful, and we know that whatever has been said, you have received them, and you are going to be part of the conversation as we move into the technical session very soon. Please, let not my thank you be in vain, but it's because you're going to contribute immensely. Once again, for coming and for your expected participation, we say a big thank you. Let me end this vote of thanks by saying that a political scientist has said, democracy and freedom are in crisis. I don't know what your position is, but let our conversation change this narrative so that we can move our country forward. I am under instruction to ask that we stand and recite the national pledge, and that will be the end of my vote of thanks. Thank you, even to our MC, for moving this process forward. Let's please stand and recite the national pledge. The right track, I see. My panelist right there. Mr. Lavalis is there, the right place. I see on the right place. Yes, Mr. Matom on the right place. Okay. Okay, Mr. Dupe is also here. And his hand is on his chest. Let's go after 2, 1, 2. I pledge my love and loyalty to my country, Sierra Leone. I vow to serve faithfully and honor.
Please go out for the photo session, but maybe just before you leave, we're celebrating Dr. Graf and happy birthday. Please let's make our way out for the photo session, please.